For our side-facing arm series, again, this could be done in kneeling or seated position. I'm going to show you on the box. And for our setup, we usually want to have people's feet on the gray part of the carriage, making sure they're not on the frame so that as the carriage moves, the feet come with you. However, this is a good bit of hip flexion for some people. So if that's not feeling great on the hips, you can cue people to dangle the legs, or they could sit in a crisscross applesauce position. Some people like to tuck the ankles over one another, can also be really helpful here as well. For our arm series, we're going to start with one strap, and typically for all of our arms facing side, we want the strap on the side that we're facing. We're going to start with our draw a sword variation here. So I've got the strap in the hand that's farther away from the strap. I'm in the big loop right now. I'm on one blue spring, and I've got the palm facing down towards the opposite hip. So if you imagine there's a sword and a little sword sheath down at the side of my hip, we're going to take the sword out of the sheath, present it out to the side, bring it back in, and tuck that sword back down. So with this one, we want to make sure we're keeping collarbones nice and broad and wide, that we're not hiking one shoulder up to lift that arm up. And a lot of times with this one, you'll see people kind of swinging the strap and their body with it. That may just be a sign that it's a little bit too heavy for them and we need to go to a lighter spring. This one's pretty challenging posterior shoulder work. So even on this blue, this feels like plenty of work for my shoulder. A yellow could be more appropriate for some people. For stir a pot, we're going to grab onto that strap and pull it in between the chest, flattening the strap in between both palms. I've just interlaced both fingers and extend the arms out directly in front of the chest. Now, even to get here, the tendency is going to be to either twist backwards out of the spring tension or majorly lean one way or the other. So this variation is sneakily a lot of core and oblique because we are loading one side of the body and then adding rotation and trying to stay in the center. So we're starting with those arms right in the center of the chest. Elbows are straightened all the way. And we've got hands, center of the chest, and nose lined up with one another. From here, you exhale and rotate the trunk and torso to the left. And you inhale, come back to center. Exhale. Inhale, maybe come past center. And then pull all the way back through to the front. And back. There's a lot of common problems we see for this one. So number one is what we'll see is people just trying to pull their arms to the side. And what you'll notice is their nose and their chest are still facing forward. We get this left elbow bend and this right shoulder gets put in a really funky position. So one thing that helps with that sometimes is to cue people to follow their arms with their nose, because usually with their nose and with their eyes, usually the spine will go where the gaze goes. So if I follow my hands, I'm more likely to rotate through the trunk. The other thing we'll see is this right shoulder hiking up to push and twist. So just cueing, lowering both of those shoulders down. And then we want to make sure people are keeping their weight equal on both hips as we rotate and come back to center and not leaning off in either direction or twisting the knees as we rotate the trunk. For our single arm overhead press facing the side, we just bring one arm in, palm facing towards the body, and you can press straight up overhead and drop straight back down. We want to keep the shoulder out of the ear as much as possible. So for some people, that may mean that they only press up about halfway if they can't keep that shoulder dropped and extend the elbow all the way. We just want to make sure we're not getting into this territory. And if they're doing that, you want to start by cueing shoulder out of the ear, but it may just be an indication that they need a little bit of a lighter spring to be able to work through this range of motion and keep that shoulder dropped. For our tricep press facing the side, we're gonna, if we're on the box, we'll side bend over and place a hand down on the shoulder block. Placement of the hand should be the same if you're in a kneeling position. From here, we bring the top arm over. So we're in a side bend position and we wanna make sure the chest is open towards the front and that left or opposite shoulder is dropped out of the ear. Palm is facing towards the ceiling, and from there, we can extend the elbow and bend it back down. And extend and bend. Now I'm only on a blue spring here, and this is really heavy. So this is a variation that I quite often will drop down to a yellow spring for people, especially when you're up on the box. When we're on the box, the strap is having to pull up higher in the air, which means more tension in the spring. So sometimes we need a little bit lighter springs to work with than if we were seated on the carriage or in our kneeling position. So there are two ways that we can do a nice side bend oblique series with our arm series facing side here. Single arm variation, we just have one arm out to the side, other arm with the strap, palm facing towards the head. And we just exhale, side bending over as you extend that arm, and then drop the elbow back down. We want to make sure both shoulders are staying out of the ears so we're not hiking that shoulder too much. And that the side bend really comes from the trunk, so that we're not seeing people just kind of take the arm, but coordinating the trunk and the arm motion together. The second way we can do a side bend series here is bringing those arms back in the center, back up overhead, again, dropping the shoulders out of the ears and just coming to a full side bend, kind of a little banana bend here, up and over to the side.